Well, the first thing I'd like to say is that in January, to the checking account, I reported how much came in February to the checking account. Investments came in $41.5 million. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd like to note is that today I visited the Alabushevo site. He didn't come to us, but he visited the 4th and 5th buildings with Sergey Sobyanin, the mayor of Moscow. Look, you might see it in the reports. Maybe you'll recognize familiar structures. We uploaded the architectural and urban planning solution, a high polygon model, and a certain number of attached documents. We were disciplined back and forth several times, so to speak, and now, in principle, our documents are under review. The review period is 20 days. After that, based on the result, it will either be a remark or it will be accepted. So, well, if there is a remark, naturally, it's clear. Revisions will be made and everything starts anew. If there are no remarks, then we move on to the MGS work stage. Quite some time has passed since the first submission last year, and it hasn't been wasted. Some rough edges were identified in the technical and economic indicators of the project in the areas. There was something to identify. We identified it, made a decision, and sent the project for a repeat review, or rather, this is already the 3rd review. Because while the high polygon model was being prepared, there was time to do this. Why was this necessary? In principle, it could have been avoided, but during this work, some discrepancies were found. In principle, our area decreased by several hundred square meters according to the cadastral account. The building still stands, of course. It breathes, it shifts there. These are different issues, but consequently, we will pay less in taxes. Therefore, by spending now, we will pay less for the rest of our lives. It was worth it. It saved money. Regarding our main activities, equipment installation is underway at the site. The installed equipment is undergoing commissioning. One of the latest units that was launched is the X-ray. It was posted in chat number 1, explaining why it is needed. When soldering cases, parts, and all SMD components, there will also be cases where the legs are directed downward, not to the sides. They need to be monitored in order to ensure that they are functioning correctly and efficiently, and the only way to do this is to prevent defects and failures during operation by implementing regular checks and maintenance routines. It can be stated that with the introduction of this equipment, technological capabilities have increased, particularly in the area of SMD component installation. They have significantly increased. Regarding machining, work is currently underway on assembling the die and completing the set because it was partially disassembled, so now what is being assembled. Some missing fastening elements have been identified, so we are currently working on supplying them. They promised to deliver it by plane, and the assembly of the foundry is also underway because our priority right now is to launch the Assad-class crucible furnace aluminum resistance crucible. A compensating wire is needed there now to connect the thermocouple. We are waiting for the delivery, and we need it primarily to cast the motor rotors. Regarding the latest modification, where there are no machine parts, everything will be assembled in a completely different way, more efficiently and with lower costs, so to speak. These tasks are being carried out daily, and in addition, staff training is ongoing because they are learning how to handle this equipment so that there won't be any fear later on. This work is ongoing. Besides this, work related to another direction is also being carried out. These are all sorts of necessary aspects: occupational safety, ecology, fire safety. All these departments are being established because this is very serious work and it is necessary. It is absolutely necessary not only to comply with legal requirements, but also to obtain permission for commissioning in the shortest possible time and in a timely manner. Because no one will allow an object to be commissioned without a contract for the supply of energy resources. And, accordingly, the organization of all these services and the maintenance of all the equipment that will ensure the operation of the facility. These are the tasks we are engaged in. In addition, there is currently a reorganization within the team because tasks and responsibilities are being redistributed. This is also work, and the future efficiency of the team depends on the outcome and the right decisions. Therefore, this work cannot be shown, it can only be talked about, but believe me, it will have a very significant impact on the results in the future. And here, no mistakes or errors can be allowed. The delivery is already underway, prepayments have been made, advances have been paid, control and measuring and testing equipment, because now the climate chamber, -70, plus 150 and 98% humidity. Why is this necessary? To test our products. In China, the vulcanization press should have already gone through customs clearance to make gaskets for the controller. There is also a gear cutting machine for motor reducer gears. Here, a heading machine for making shaft scenes is being tested. Express delivery of sprues, sprue bushings to start the thermoplastic machine has been sent. And now several more pieces of test equipment are being considered, for which a decision has not yet been made. Because what we have organized now, thanks to your investments in the incoming material inspection, allows us to tackle serious tasks, move confidently, and avoid any losses. Because the materials that arrive are immediately checked for their composition, and we already know for sure that we received exactly the material we ordered. I already mentioned in the chat that the received welding robot along with the rotary table has been installed and tested, and now the tooling is being prepared so that we can weld frames for quadcopters in this area. And not just for them. This will also apply to ground transportation means in order to reduce costs. We are currently waiting for a tube bender, which is delayed in delivery. A number of compressors are also coming because it's necessary to expand independence from compressed air. The right decision is not to create a central compressor station. Even this small practice has confirmed it. So we're moving forward, colleagues, we're moving.
A question regarding equipment and machines. Besides what was mentioned, are there many more necessary machines?
How many? Investments allow us to expand, yes. And we are not going beyond limits. Right now, we know exactly we will put 3 models of grinding machines into limited production. The controller is 60 kilowatt, 106 volts, and the motors. The motors we are currently making come in 2 modifications, the 35th package and the 50th. We aim to minimize their production costs. The equipment that incoming funds allow us to purchase, we are acquiring for this purpose. But we need to understand that the enterprise is not limitless, and soon we will reach the limit. In order for us to significantly grow in relation to other SMD assembly manufacturers, we need an optical inspection system costing around 20 million, and we need another installation component. Our oven allows this object to pass through in order to increase productivity. And increasing productivity always means reducing the cost share of wages, because a person will still be servicing it. But, in principle, it is already clear that the process of equipping will soon be completed.
Which product is next in line after the angle grinders and aircraft engines?
Controllers, because no one can handle an engine without a controller, so controllers. This is mandatory. And, accordingly, we must not forget that 2 machines have been purchased. One is a gear cutting machine, the other is for broaching a keyway. Why were they made? so that a motor wheel could be produced. But practice has shown, after all the testing, that it still needs to have a gearbox. Because we demonstrated in numerous experiments and in the laboratories that the efficiency of the engine depends on the linear speed of rotation in the air gap. Yes, you can increase the number of poles, but you can't do it infinitely because there are reasonable limits to all these parameters. These parameters must be ensured in order to achieve maximum efficiency and maximum consumer quality and compromise with all of this. We have essentially reached them, and in this case, it's the 318 size, which is suitable for aviation, ground vehicles, bicycles, and anything else. Because we understand that bicycles have a certain relevance. We won't compete with China, but where we can truly compete, we need to enter that market segment. Because we should not satisfy our curiosity or ambitions at someone else's expense. Our task is to generate profit, which is what the investor expects from us. In chat number 1, I posted the cost of an engine, which is 800 volts, I believe, yes, 40 kilowatts for an aviation system, and it costs about 23,000 euros. 2.5 million rubles.
But there, I think, it's still unclear how many engines can actually be ordered.
Yes, but it comes with a controller. It's good if we now offer a similar engine with a controller, but at a comparable price. Profit margin, and how many bicycles need to be made, and how many of these, especially since these engines are designed for a completely different segment. It's like comparing a car, whether you're buying a Ziguli or a Maybach. That car, either a Moskvich or a Tesla. Because there, you're already paying for the show-off factor. It's the same year. And we know that Viktor Alabushevo was just showing how much boats cost and how much the drive for them costs. Is there a point? Yes, there is. Colleagues, there is. And in this direction, yes, but at the same time, we need to understand that the market for super heavy copters is gigantic and unfilled. We're told that for anything over 30 kilograms of takeoff weight, a pilot needs to be trained. All right, that's here. And there's the Russian market with one product. There's the foreign market for which there's another product. But that doesn't mean we're patriots and we don't go to the Western market. Why? We will go. Why? Because we sell products, yes, and we introduce what we need. It's a normal phenomenon. It's technological. And if they tell us, well, the Chinese will take it, open it up, modify it, and launch it. All right. But our engine is without an encoder. They would have to disassemble the engine, install an encoder to use their controller, and that parameter wasn't there. Our controller, fine, they opened it up. It's partly based on using the Chinese as a foundation. They opened it up, everything's fine. They copied the circuitry, but what about the software? Where's the software? It's not there, so it's not that easy to copy, and by the time they copy and develop this software, we'll have already moved ahead. No one usually plays catch up. It's easier to come to an agreement. And here arises a question, which I think you can answer for yourself. Where will the first deliveries go? Strangely enough, right here to China.
And how is the Moth doing? What's new in the design?
Well, there are significant changes. Firstly, conceptually it has changed. As they say, it now has mailboxes. The power unit is externalized. Under each propeller there is an engine, propeller, controller, and battery, all properly packaged. All of this is removable. In the future, it can be made to detach and attach just like a Kalashnikov magazine. What are the issues? A reliable, good fastening. This is so that it can be quickly detached, attached, and so on. That's the first thing. Second, the length of the power cables is minimized, because when you have a central battery, you either need thick cables or to increase the voltage. And imagine, for instance, if you send an agricultural drone somewhere and it operates at 800 to 900 volts. These are special requirements and it's very dangerous. Therefore, it's important to understand that a compromise must be found between energy performance, cost, operational expenses, and characteristics. That's why this concept was adopted. When all the energy is concentrated in one place, where access is practically not needed, where you can remove the battery and install it without any particular problems on a connector, where the weight of the copper is minimized. In addition, we took into account the experience from piloting the previous model. Therefore, significant changes have been made to the flight controller and the overall design. Because, after all, small quadcopters and large ones are different. Moreover, the technological advancements that have emerged allow the frame to be made intricate, like a bridge structure, significantly lightening it while maintaining mechanical strength. And other additional elements, like the landing skid and the shock absorbers that have been added. Because we have seen how it can crash into the ground, considering that not everyone will immediately have the necessary piloting skills, and consequently, mistakes are inevitable. Therefore, when talking about agricultural use, delivery services, and surveillance, this is important. And another point is that our quadcopters design allows them to be combined using an additional frame. A frame is made and 4 quadcopters are connected. Together, it's not 250 kilograms of payload capacity anymore, but, excuse me, a ton. That's already substantial, and many say you need to set up a power station for all this to fly. Go ahead if you want to. A cable there. Those are different issues. You always need to understand that there is a relationship between flight range, payload, and flight time. The more you load, the shorter the distance you fly, or the less time you spend in the air. And you always have to find a compromise. And all of this is tied to where the product will be used. Because, for example, if recharging is required, the battery capacity can be increased without much trouble. And this can be done by utilizing technological capabilities to lighten the structure. Because what can be done in a garage won't achieve the lightening of the structure and consumer qualities. For that, you need technology. And we see, we observe. Now it's possible to either assemble packages with a laser or use this machine.
I found out that, according to Russian law, you can start converting an LLC to a JSC at any stage, meaning you don't have to wait for construction to be completed. I checked with experts on this matter.
Well, did the expert not tell you how the cost of the privatization object will depend, whether as an unfinished construction object or as an object put into operation, plus with the land? And according to the requirement under the contract concluded with Technopolis, we can purchase the land for 1% of the residual value only after it is put into operation. Ask the expert. He will tell you. Colleagues, I have told you about this, explained it many times. Our ultimate goal is not just to reorganize. Reorganization should occur when the valuation of the object is at its highest, when the cost of the object is at its maximum. Why? Well, so that each share accounts for as much capital as possible.
Is everything serious with the Chinese and their order for aircraft engines?
We are moving in that direction, and they are interested because a number of their projects are not being realized with their BLDC engines.
Has Sovelmash already started generating profit for reinvestment and production improvements, purchasing new machines? Or is this only possible after obtaining permission? And in general, is the company planning such a strategy?
Initially, that was the planned strategy, but it would have delayed the receipt of dividends. Because the profit would have had to be spent on purchasing equipment for creating serial production lines. And since the investments were sufficient to purchase this equipment, we did not follow the minimum program, but a more specific one. Because as of today, the enterprise can no longer be associated with Sovelmash issues. It's a serious industrial enterprise with its own Sovelmash, so to speak.
Will you be designing and manufacturing your own machines similar to those in the workshop?
Well, we will be working on specialized machines, and we are already doing that. Those that specifically relate to the production processes of our products. Universal machines, no, there is no point. Specialized ones.
There are quite a few questions about your own batteries. Is there any development going on or not? If so, what kind?
Materials are tied up. Materials are tied up for development, but we need to free up our hands to be able to sit down and work on it.
Gear cutting machine. It seems like there was talk about powder metallurgy and obtaining gears through pressing.
That's for angle grinders. Colleagues, don't confuse it. For gearboxes, there are planetary gearboxes, and that technology is not suitable there. And you need to understand that a grinding machine and a traction motor, well, they're not the same thing. And the requirements there are completely different. Right now, for example, we're making a motor for a quadcopter, but from the initial motor in the latest model, only the core, windings, and short-circuiting system up to the ring remain. The rest of the structures have changed drastically. They've changed a lot, but they're also designed for different technologies. But what remains is the bearing for now, and currently, in the upcoming modification, we're potentially considering replacing the rolling bearing with a sliding bearing. It's more compact, lighter, but it all depends on the application area of these motors. Because I've said many times that, in principle, the concept seems to be the same, but if it's for delivery, there are certain operational features. For agricultural use, it's different, and for military purposes, it's something else entirely. So, in principle, the foundation is the same, but the nuances and design differ slightly everywhere. Thank you.
Has anyone ordered a turnkey plant? If not, when is it expected? After Sovelmash?
Well, everyone is observing right now. Yes, there's probing going on, but you understand that I will never give consent or sign off until it is objectively proven. Then we can.
So much equipment for manufacturing quadcopter frames? It was said that the quadcopter is a test stand experiment, and logically, not so much equipment is needed for this. Have you decided to go into production after all?
Well, the thing is, for its production, we only had to acquire 2 additional machines, so to speak. These are a tube cutter and a tube bender. We need the welding robot for ground vehicles as well. Because even a frame on 4 wheels, on 8 wheels, or any kind, still needs to be welded by a robot, not by hand.
Are we planning to manufacture drones of the smallest class in the future?
If it is economically feasible, of course, yes. But we need to calculate all of this. I mentioned the cost of engines for heavy drones, and imagine how many engines for small drones would need to be made to earn the same amount. What would you choose if you were in my place? I think comments are unnecessary here.